every fall sports team on the court or the field. We'll have all those results and highlights for you right here on today's show. We'll also sit down with volleyball head coach Robin Felder to discuss last week's wins and preview the rest of the season. We'll wrap it all up with a look ahead at this week's schedule. So stick with us. There's a lot to get to today. Trailblazer Weekly starts now. Again, welcome inside this week's edition of Trailblazer Weekly. A lot to get to today. We'll have highlights and results for you. We're going to start it off with men's soccer as we start on the soccer pitch. The Trailblazers in a big-time matchup last week hosting nationally ranked California Baptist in a duel between two undefeated teams. We go right to it. It's Dixie State and Cal Baptist tied at 0 into the second half when the Lancers are able to break through and score the first goal of the match. Aiden Apodaca for the Lancers scores in the 67th minute to give the Lancers a 1-0 lead. But have no fear. Moises Medina, less than 10 minutes later, a screamer into the back of the net to tie things up at 1-1 in the 73rd minute. This game would go to overtime. The first 10-minute stanza scoreless, but just about 4 minutes into the second overtime, the Lancers find a header into the back of the net. The sudden victory goal gives the Lancers the victory. Dixie State had to watch California Baptist celebrate on the Legends Solar Stadium pitch. A tough loss, but no doubt this Trailblazer team will bounce back from that. The Trailblazers, their first loss of the season, now 7-1 overall, 3-1 in Pac West play. We'll let you know who their opponents are this coming week. Again, a tough loss, but they will bounce back from that. Let's move over to the volleyball court as the women's volleyball team hosted 2 home matches last week, starting with Friday against Holy Names, and they came into that match with a 1-2 Pac West record, looking to even things up at 500 in the Pac West. And as you can see on your screen, the Trailblazers sweeping the Hawks with a 3-0 win on Friday night, setting up a matchup with Dominican on Saturday. The Trailblazers entered that game on Saturday with a 2-2 Pac West record. They leave that match against Dominican on Saturday, as you can see there on your screen, with a 3-0 win there with back-to-back wins. In fact, the Trailblazers earned 2 sweeps in about a 24-hour period. Again, beating Holy Names on Friday, then Dominican on Saturday. The Trailblazers against Dominican closed the first stanza with a 13-5 run to turn a 12-9 score into a 25-14 opening set win. DSU then slipped by the Penguins to take the second set by a 25-22 count on Saturday, then pulled away in the deciding third frame to complete the sweep with a 25-19 result. The Trailblazers now 5-8 overall, above 500 now in the Pac West, 3-2 as this team moves their way back up the Pac West standings. We'll have head coach Robin Felder with us a little bit later in the show today to discuss those 2 wins, break them down a little bit more in depth, as well as talk about the rest of this season. We want to run to break now. When we come back, we'll continue our look back with football and women's soccer. We'll also have some women's swimming results for you right here on Trailblazer Weekly. Stick with us. There's a lot more coming up right after this timeout.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes and you come to mine. This is it. First impression. My way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes. And way over here, busy moms. No?
Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly. We continue our look back at last week on the football field as the Trailblazers headed back out onto the road after 2 consecutive home games here at Legend Solar Stadium. Dixie State heading to Gunnison, Colorado last Saturday for a matchup with Western State, Colorado. Elevation 7,771 feet. The altitude definitely played a little bit of a factor in this game. We've got the highlights. Let's jump right to it as the Trailblazers and Mountaineers squared off inside the Mountaineer Bowl. It would be Western State jumping on the board first with a 33-yard field goal to make it 3-0 in the first quarter. In the second quarter, disaster strikes for Dixie State. A swing pass to the left side. It's ruled a backwards pass and thus is a live ball. Western State scoops it up and runs in from 5 yards out. The PAT would be no good, and the Mountaineers take a 9-0 lead. But have no fear, Dixie State responded with a 10-play, 78-yard drive capped by C.J. Luongo. 1-yard dive into the end zone for the touchdown. That PAT would also fail, and the lead would be 9-6 Western State in the second quarter. The Trailblazers would make another drive down the field. It stalled in the red zone, but A.J. Jurgensen comes through in the clutch with a 23-yard field goal, his first collegiate field goal attempt to tie the game at 9 heading to halftime. In the second half, midway through the third quarter, Lika Palmer, the freshman, breaking free, nearly gets tripped up, but he's able to make his way into the end zone. That would serve as the game-winning touchdown. Western State added a field goal late to make it 15-12, and Dixie State facing a crucial third down. You see it right here, in danger of having to give the ball back to Western State. Malik Watson hooking up with Casey Allison. That would move the chains. Western State out of timeouts at that point late in the fourth quarter, and the Trailblazers were able to take a knee and wind down the clock to clinch the 15-12 victory in Gunnison. Trailblazers now 2-3 overall, back even at 500 in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference play at 2-2. They will host Chadron State here at Legend Solar Stadium on Saturday at 1 p.m. We stay on the field, although the soccer field, the women's soccer team, like the men's soccer team, hosted California Baptist in a big-time Pac West matchup this last Saturday. We've got the highlights for those. Let's jump right into those highlights as well. We start with Dixie State trailing 2-0 when Jamie Arado in the second half ties it up at 2-1, and you're thinking Dixie State right back in this thing. But less than a minute later, the Lancers would strike back to take a 3-1 lead, and then eventually would add another goal in the 80th minute to clinch a 4-1 victory. Again, Jamie Jurado getting the only goal of the game for the Trailblazers, assisted by Montana Hadley. A tough 4-1 loss for the Trailblazers that day, but Dixie State still looking good in the overall and in Pac West play. 6-3 overall now for the Trailblazers, 2-2 in Pac West play. We'll let you know who their opponent is a little bit later in our look ahead. Before we run to our next break, we also just want to remind you about a couple other teams that took part in their first meet of the season. That's the women's swimming team. Hosted Loyola Marymount on Saturday in their first meet of the fall season. Trailblazers falling 138-123 in that matchup at the Washington City Community Center, but they did collect 7 event wins and broke 2 school records that day. The Trailblazers now underway here in the fall, and we'll keep a close eye on the rest of their schedule as we move throughout. Also want to remind you that the women's golf team hosting their annual Dixie State Invitational at Sand Hollow Golf Course right now. Actually, the second round is about halfway through. The Trailblazers on Monday after day 1 were in second place, just 1 stroke off the lead. Stay tuned to DixieStateAthletics.com to see those final results. We'll also have a quick update on it for you next week on Trailblazer Weekly. Time for our next break. When we come back, we'll sit down with volleyball head coach Robin Felder to look back at these last 2 wins, as also preview the rest of the season and take a look at this year's team. Stick with us. That interview coming up right after this timeout.
I take the road less traveled, run free, unwind, unravel, someplace outside with lots to do. Green trees, red rocks, and don't forget that blue sky. The sunshine shining, sunshine pouring on me. Think I might just stay a while. Say hooray all day because the sun is gonna shine on me. Sun is gonna shine on me. Sun's gonna shine on me.
Retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. And I appreciated it very much, the attention that was given. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
Your daughter is having trouble learning French. Do you A, hire a tutor?
Bonjour.
B, enforce a French-only rule at home? Or C, watch some foreign films? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back inside Trailblazer Weekly. Pleased to welcome to the show today volleyball head coach Robin Felder. And Coach, appreciate you stopping by. We haven't had you on the show yet this year, and been counting down the days till we could get you. You're on the road a lot the first half of this season, so we're excited to be able to have you on the show. And we get to talk about. We'll just jump right into it. Talk about a couple of wins last week. First of all, how big were those wins for your team? You get to come home and you get the 2 sweeps in about a 24-hour period. How big were those wins for your team, and just kind of going forward, what you want to accomplish the rest of the season?
Yeah, you know, they were huge for us. I mean, we just keep telling the girls we're doing the right things. You know, just have faith. And, you know, winning always just shows you that, you know, you can do it. And, you know, statistically, we were on point. And so that's where we've kind of been off point all year. It's just kind of been our hitting percentage was off, but our blocking was great, or our blocking was great. And so it's nice that we kind of put it all together for those 2 matches.
Yeah, certainly is an aspect in really any sport. You got to put together a full 3 sets, if you will, or full 4 quarters in other sports. But you do get the 2 wins, and you're still at home this coming week. But let's talk about this team a little bit before we look at the schedule for the rest of the way out. Obviously, you probably want to see a few more wins early on, but as we talked about on Media Day, it's a young team, only a couple of seniors on this team, a few juniors, and then a lot of sophomores, a lot of freshmen. You kind of maybe knew that some results like this were possible. You've been in a lot of games, a lot of close games, and on the wrong end of those, but what have you been able to learn about this year's team through those tough results, and now you're kind of starting to see some wins pop up and everything come together?
Yeah, I mean, we played a tough preseason, and I felt like we were in every game. We just couldn't quite get the win, finish, but we showed a lot of grit, and that's the element that we're like, hey, we can win in 5. Our first 3 wins were in 5, come from behind, so we've showed definitely that we have heart and we have grit, and when we control our side of the ball, we're going to be tough to beat. Preseason was good for us, like we said. We kind of knew that was kind of come, and it did. We've learned a lot. We've tried a lot of different lineups. We've gotten a lot of kids some experience, so it's been good for us to kind of settle into our lineup and kind of go from there.
Let's talk about this year's team. Like I mentioned, I didn't name any names yet, but just only a couple of seniors. Obviously, you get Jacqueline Condi, Brett Barney are your seniors, and you still have a couple other familiar names: Sid Brandon, Jadra Thurber, names like that. But let's talk about your returners first. I know we're almost halfway through the season already, but who are those players? We mentioned a few of them. Who are those players that you've been kind of leaning on this season and say, hey, you are our experienced players. We need you to kind of pick up the load a little bit and lead these younger players?
Yeah, we've literally had that talk a lot. Hey, you guys are returners. You got to pull the load. Brett and Sid have given us great leadership all year. Sid's our returning libero, captain. Brett's captain. So both those girls have just kind of carried the load emotionally for the team. But we've had some key kids kind of step up. Casey Adams stepped up as a freshman. She's seen a substantial playing time. She's looking great. Lauren Gamble didn't get much experience last year, and she's killing it. I mean, she's blocking balls, she's putting the ball away, she's doing fantastic. Shannon Sorensen contributed a little bit last year. She's been another one that's just been so nice to rely on this year. And then, like I said, we've had Kayla Chapman. She's a junior that's actually going to graduate early and go into nursing, and she's been awesome. Blocking balls, hitting a high percentage, and so it's just nice that we have a lot of kids that are really contributing right now.
You could also look at even the coaching staff, a little bit of change in the coaching staff this year. You bring in, Dave Richards, who his coaching resume is just, through the roof. How nice has it been to have someone like Dave with all the experience that he has to bring what he can bring to each practice and to the bench during games as well? Yeah, we've loved Dave. I mean, Dave, we just love Dave. I mean, he's like my father. He's like, he just has so much knowledge, and he's so positive, and he's definitely had us implement some different things. We're swinging on a pin that we weren't swinging on before, and we changed the tempo of our offense just a little bit. So just some little things. It's been so nice to bounce ideas off of him, and he'll give me, his take, and he's just been awesome, and the girls have adored him. So it's been nice to have Dave in there for sure. As I mentioned in the look back segment, as you get those 2 wins over Holy Names and Dominican, you're 3-2 in the Pac West now, and it's kind of a new season. You're above 500 in the Pac West. You've got one more home game against Hawaii Pacific coming up on Friday, and then it's back out on the road, the Bay Area trip for 4. How crucial is this next little stretch here in terms of, okay, we're above 500 now. If we can get a win on Friday and then go out and take care of business in the Bay Area, we can still accomplish our goals as far as the Pac West Conference is concerned. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this win Friday against Hawaii Pacific, we've got momentum. We're playing at home. We beat them at their place, so they're going to come after us here, but I just love how we've played in the SAC so far this year. It's just been awesome chemistry, total energy. It's been a lot of fun. And then the Bay Area trip is four games in 7 days. I mean, it's crazy, but I feel like we're ready
ready for it. We've really been grinding in the gym, just trying to create that tiredness that we're going to have and just playing when we're tired. But I feel like we're playing with a lot of momentum. I feel like the girls are starting to really get their feet into just the confidence that this team is creating, and it's been fun to kind of see them grow up this week for sure.
I'll tell you, I've made that Bay Area trip with basketball, and I've seen kind of what baseball and softball have to go through. That Bay Area trip is not an easy trip. It's almost comparable to the Hawaii trip almost, because you go down and you play so many games so quickly. After that Bay Area trip, you're able to come home for 3 matches. At the end of this month, you get Point Loma, Fresno Pacific, and a matchup with Biola, the new kid on the block. But what are kind of the team's goals going forward? Obviously, you got to win. You want to win as much as you can. But have you had a chance to kind of sit down halfway through and say, we didn't start how we wanted to, but if we can do this, we can finish?
Yeah, I think we're just trying to take it week by week. Honestly, I want to go 1-0 this week. I want to beat Hawaii Pacific. And then the next week, I want to go 3-0, So I think we're just trying to take it piece by piece. Sometimes when we say, hey, we want to win 20 games in a row, they're like, bah! It just like blows their mind. And so when we say, hey, we need to win the game this Friday, that's all we need to do this week. It just kind of makes it more manageable, especially with a young team that, easily overwhelmed. It just kind of is nice. Hey, we've got to win on Friday. We've got one team to scout, one team to focus on. And then when we go to the Bay Area, it's going to be one team at a time. We got to beat Notre Dame first, and then we got to beat Holy Names. So I think that's our mindset moving forward. One game at a time, take care of business, and then move on to the next.
And how much have you seen this young team grow through this first half of the season? Obviously, I've heard a lot of coaches say, well, we'd rather not lose, because that saying of, you can almost learn more from a loss than from a win. A lot of coaches will say, no, that's not true. I don't want to lose ever. But how much have you seen these young girls, these freshmen, these sophomores, grow up through this first stretch?
Yeah, I mean, coming in, they're freshmen. They're straight out of high school, and in volleyball, they can just jump and swing, and they get a kill because they're that athletic. And at this level, there's just more attack selection. It's just totally a different game, a different speed, a different urgency. So I think a lot of those things early on are totally overwhelming to a young team. And now I feel like they've just kind of like adapted to that. And you can see they're just starting to just develop and blossom, and the team chemistry. Like I said, we've gotten a starting lineup pretty solid now, to our kids are starting to just kind of settle into their position, play volleyball. They're not freaking out. So it's been nice to see this young team take some big steps.
Just lastly, before we let you go, and we kind of talk about the same thing on Media Day, but every team's different. Obviously, they have, whether it's your experienced team or your younger team, like that's one dynamic. But every team is just different. How is this year different from maybe other teams that you've coached here at Dixie State?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely off the court. Their chemistry is awesome. I mean, they're so fun to travel with, and on the court, it's been different. We've always had just a kid that was gritty and throwing down, and this year we've kind of depended on a lot of kids to do that. So I think the chemistry's been developing. This by far is probably my most athletic group of hitters and blockers. And as we develop and our offense gets better, I think you're going to see our numbers go up, and kids just starting to hammer balls, and that's fun to watch. I mean, that's fun volleyball to watch.
Which is exciting, considering you hate to keep harping on how young this team is and how many of these players you're going to have for the next 2, 3, 4 years almost, and a lot of success, a lot of wins on the horizon. Coach, thanks for stopping by with us today. I'd like to get to know you a little bit better in this year's team. It's always fun to have you in. We wish you all the best this Friday and going forward in the season.
Thanks.
Just another reminder, the women's volleyball team in action hosting Hawaii Pacific in the Student Activity Center at 6 p.m. on Friday. We encourage you all to come out, be loud, be proud, make noise, and cheer on your Trailblazers to the victory inside the Student Activity Center on Friday. We're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll take a look ahead at this week's schedule, let you know who's playing and where. Again, another big thank you to head coach Robin Felder for being with us. We'll run to break. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this timeout.
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes. And way over here, busy moms. No?
Welcome back inside the CEC TV studios on this week's edition of Trailblazer Weekly. As always, before we wrap up the show, let's take a quick look ahead at the schedule for this next week. Sorry about that. I invite you to follow along on your screen. It all starts, of course, women's golf finishing up the Dixie State Fall Invitational at San Hollow today. And then on to Thursday, women's tennis is going to head to Grand Junction, Colorado for Thursday, Friday, Saturday matches, their first dual matches of the 2017-18 season. On Thursday, as you see on your screen, they will take on Colorado Mesa, the host school. Moving into Friday, women's swimming with the PSCS Pentathlon and Relay in La Mirada, California. That will also take place on Saturday. Also on Friday, women's tennis with 2 matches. First against Colorado Christian, and then later in the day against Metro State Denver. And then the volleyball team wrapping things up on Friday with a home match with Hawaii Pacific inside the Student Activities Center. We encourage you to get out to that one. Let your voice be heard. Cheer on your Trailblazers to victory there. A busy day Saturday. Of course, as I mentioned, women's swimming with the second day of their pentathlon and relay meet in California. Men's and women's cross country will be in action in Cedar City at the SUU Color Country Invite. The women's race will start at 8 a.m. The men's race at 8:45 a.m. Men's and women's soccer that day will be taking on Notre Dame Dana Muir in Belmont, California. And then football will host Chadron State on Saturday at 1 p.m. at Legend Solar Stadium. Again, like volleyball on Friday, be sure to get out to football on Saturday. Chadron State, very good team coming in, with Dixie State an opportunity to get back at 500 at 3-3 overall, and then even above 500 in RMAC play. Should they be able to get the win on Saturday. And then moving into Monday, wrapping up our look ahead, men's and women's soccer will be at Dominican. That's a 1 p.m. kickoff Utah time for the women on Monday, and a 3:30 p.m. Utah time kickoff for the men at Dominican on Monday. And that is our look ahead for this week. Of course, that'll do it for today's show. We'll have all of those results for you right here on Trailblazer Weekly next week. We also remind you can catch this episode and all episodes of Trailblazer Weekly on demand at the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page. I'm Carrick Sagmuller. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Trailblazer Weekly.